Hi, I'm Lisa Sun, and I'm the CEO of GRAVITAS New York. This is our new series, Making It in the Garment District, which is dedicated to how we make things in the heart of New York City in the garment district. But it's also about us as a brand and as a team trying to make it in the fashion industry. In this first episode, I want to talk a little bit about who I am, what the company's about, and where we've been in the last year, because like most of us, we have had a really tough last 15 months. And I want to talk about where we've come and how we're setting ourselves up for this finish to this 2021. A little bit about me and what my team does. I'm the daughter of immigrants who taught me a lot about entrepreneurship and what it takes to persevere in tough times. I spent over a decade in management consulting and then decided to leave that corporate ladder behind and start GRAVITAS, which was inspired by my first professional review that my first boss told me I didn't have any gravitas, I didn't have any confidence, and she told me to buy a new dress, look in the mirror, and love myself. That she could teach me how to be good at this job, but she couldn't teach me the most important thing, which is how to wake up every morning and really look in the mirror and like myself. She said if Dumbo had a flying feather, he never needed that feather to fly, but it reminded himself every day that he could. And so I started this company at the end of 2013 with a mission to catalyze confidence in women's lives. We create innovative products. Our first product was a little black dress with built-in shapewear. And that first product was designed so that everyone would have a confidence hug, that they could look in the mirror and like themselves. We were very lucky in that first year in that we had a ton of press. We had a lot of enthusiasm for what we do, but most importantly, we built a community. We had women who wrote us letters and sent us emails about how our clothes had made their lives better, whether it was a woman running to be the youngest woman judge in LA Superior Court and showing us a photo of her campaigning in our dress, all the way to the woman going through a divorce and needing a new dress for her son's graduation, an airline attendant who with her last paycheck when she'd been laid off, bought one of our dresses to wear to her mother's funeral and to get a new job. You know, I was really moved by the fact that with our mission to catalyze confidence, we were doing that. We were giving women the gift of self-confidence. And I'm really proud that that's what we do as a team. But all of that, really led us to a very important moment in our company's journey, which is September 2019. It was a very cool moment for us because for the first time ever, we were having our own runway show at New York Fashion Week. It was this incredible moment. I actually, deep down in my heart, had always dreamt of us having a runway show, but I always thought, we're not really a brand that shows on a runway. We're not a designer. We're really just helping women do great things in their lives. But we had the opportunity through one of our customers to do a whole runway show. And so September 2019, we did it our way, which I'm really proud of. We had this unbelievable show where we had every size on the runway, starting at a size 4 all the way to a size 22. We had every ethnicity shown on the runway. So we had African American models, Hispanic models, Asian models, Caucasian models. It was this really cool moment. And we showed this collection that was all about how do we want a woman to feel good about herself every day of the week. It was this wonderful moment when my head designer, Aruk, and I, we were taking our bows and we were looking around and we saw our friends. We saw customers that we had invited. We saw our team. I have this great photo of our lead production manager and our production assistant, and they had never been to a runway show. And we invited them and they got to go and take their bows as well after we were cleaning up and everyone was congratulating us. And there was this really awesome moment where we were like, look, we did a runway show, we did it our way. New York Magazine featured us with all these other incredible designers that I've looked up to my whole life. And so September 2019 was this peak for us. And we were so excited because all the products we had shown on the runway, they would start showing up in stores and on our own website and at pop-up shops starting in March, all the way through until June of 2020. Well, the best laid plans were all sort of torn apart, like most of our plans. on March 13th, which is when, March 13th, 2020, which is when we all stopped. The world halted with the COVID-19 pandemic. And for us, we had like emails from our suppliers telling us that our runway production was showing up in the fourth week of March, and wouldn't we be excited? Well, March 13th, I closed the office in New York City, and every day was just checking in with different team members, and we realized that all the things that we were hoping for March and April of 2020, they just weren't going to happen. And I sat at home and watched our website, which most people just assume that sales were zero. In fact, sales on our website were negative. And when I say that, people are always a little bit shocked. And I said, well, we make women's workwear. So if you had bought something within 30 days, you have the opportunity to return it for a refund. And so if you're a woman, a professional woman, and your office is closed indefinitely, whatever you just spent money on, you're sending back to us. So we were refunding customers through the back half of March, not just zero sales, but negative sales. So the last 2 weeks of March were probably the hardest I've ever faced as an entrepreneur, seeing the cash register say negative. And we're just so used to the cash register saying positive numbers, but it was all negative for 2 full weeks. April 1st, we started to get phone calls from people that we knew, people in the community, just saying, hey, do you think you could make some face masks? Because the CDC is about to announce on April 3rd that they are recommending a mask mandate. And so folks from the front line, our own customers, friends, just started calling me and said, do you think you could make some PPE? And my response was, I don't even know if I can find a worker that can work during this time. But April 1st, I called our head designer, Aruk, who lives near our office and near our New York City factory. And I said, Aruk, do you think we could make face masks and some hospital gowns? And he said, I have secretly been making face masks for all my friends. And so, yeah, I have a pattern. And if you remember, one of our business partners, Jane Park, who owns a company called Toki, she left 2,000 yards of Japanese premium cotton, quilter's cotton, in the office, and we were supposed to make her bags for the spring season. She makes reusable gift bags, and I just started using some of her fabric. I hope she doesn't mind. I said, okay, well, if you're already doing it, are you doing it yourself? He's like, yeah, I'm sewing it myself. I'm actually just sitting here making them, and I had some extra elastic, so I just started making masks for myself and for my friends. So I said, well, let me see if I can get us some supplies. And so that was Wednesday, April 1st, and I started calling around, and everywhere I called, there were just no's. No, we're closed. No, we're closed. Like, no, we're not open. And finally, I made a phone call to my friends at Panda Trim, which is a New York City garment district institution. It's these two wonderful women, Veronica and Deborah Kim. And I called them and I said, hey, I just need some elastic to make face masks. And they said, well, we're not open, but if you order it online and you tell us when you're going to be in the garment district, we will leave it outside on the sidewalk for you. Just buy it online and we'll leave it outside on the sidewalk. And so I called my head designer, Rook, and I said, where are you? And he said, I'm in Times Square right now, just getting some air. And I've never seen Times Square this empty. It is completely desolate. There's not one person on the street. I'm going to send you a selfie from where I am right now. And he sent me the selfie and he said, this is where I am. And you're telling me to walk over to Panda Trim on 38th and 7th Avenue and there will be elastic on the sidewalk. I said, yes, I've paid for it online. I just need you to go walk by that store, and if there's a blue plastic bag with elastic on it that says our name, Gravitas, just pick it up and take it to the office. And so he called me about 20 minutes later and he said, I have a blue bag filled with elastic for ear loops for a face mask. I said, great, I will meet you in the office. So April 2nd, I went to the office and it was just the two of us, and Aruk said, great, if I cut the face masks, will you marrow? I have never used a sewing machine in my life. I mean, it's kind of ironic that I run a fashion company and I don't know how to use a Miro machine. And I hopped on the Miro machine, and in about 10 minutes, he said, you need to get off this machine. You have no business being anywhere near this machine because all of the seams were zigzaggy and nothing was straight. And he's like, we're going to have to find real sewers to come back to work, or you're going to need to figure out something because you have requests from a television show, you have requests from the front line, and you promised everyone by Monday you would make 100 face masks and mail them out. So I called my best friend who had gone to FIT at night, and she said, I know how to use a Miro machine, I'll come into the office. So that weekend, that first weekend in April, we all sat around, we played music, and we made 100 face masks. And then Monday morning, I realized that I wasn't even sure if the post office was open, and we met these unbelievable women at the post office near our office. We gave them free masks, they were so grateful, and we started to just mail out donations of face masks to the front line. A few days later, I had put a post on social media that we were doing this, and our customers, our community, just started donating money and saying, send me one and give someone to someone else. So we were sending face masks to Virginia, to Tufts Hospital up in Boston. We were just starting to do this organically. And then one of our friends of the company said, hey, there are 2 local hospitals that need hospital gowns. Do you think you could help out? And so for most of April and May, my team spent our time and our energy and our resources making PPE for local hospitals and for our community. It was what I called a pivot with purpose. We weren't going to profit from it, so we weren't pivoting our business to profit. We're pivoting it so that we could make a difference in other people's lives. What was a very weird and I would say sobering time period for our team. We couldn't get seamstresses to come back to work. So what we would do is we would have friends actually pick up cut pieces of fabric and elastic trim, and they would drop it off at the homes of any seamstress that had a home sewing machine. And they would make them, and then the next day someone would go pick them up. And that's how we got through most of April and May. We kept the lights on. We kept people employed. I would say some of our seamstresses were just happy to have something to do because they were sitting in small apartments, not sure if they were ever going to get their job back. We brought everyone back in June and July of 2020, and it was a really great time for us, not from a financial standpoint, but from just the standpoint of us feeling like we were doing something helpful to the world. We then got into the end of 2020, and we were just getting through the month of November. We realized that people were not going to go back to work and that nothing was really going to turn on again. And so we decided it's okay, we have Black Friday. We always do really well as a brand on Black Friday. We go 50 to 80% off the whole website. Surely somebody will buy something. And on Black Friday, nobody bought anything. We missed our sales target by 80%. So what we usually do on Black Friday, we only did 20% of what we usually do on Black Friday. And I walked into the office the following Monday. I said, what are we going to do? There is not enough money to borrow. There is not enough government assistance. I don't know if we're going to make it as a team. And my designer, Haruk, who is possibly the most industrious person on the planet, he said, well, we have this stretch velvet that we were going to use for our holiday collection. Remember, we were going to do those gorgeous cocktail dresses in stretchy velvet and make women feel really good at their holiday parties. We still have that in the warehouse. And I have these patterns for sweatshirts and jogger pants and hoodies. And I think we could do really, really fancy loungewear because nobody's gone outside, but they really want to make their holiday, whether it's Hanukkah or Christmas, they really want to make it special while they're inside. I think we do fancy loungewear. By the way, I had resisted the impulse to do loungewear because every brand was making sweatpants, everyone was making sweatshirts, and we sold a lot of stretchy leggings on our website in 2020. But I was like, you know what? That is something that is on brand for us. Let's make stretchy, really beautiful, fancy loungewear. Let's make velvet loungewear. And I said to my designer, how fast could you make it? He said, well, we're in the garment district. We have our own seamstresses. I can make them today. So he pulled out some patterns. He made 6 pieces of beautiful velvet loungewear. And I said, well, are we gonna do a photo shoot? How are we gonna do this? And it was funny, I made a few phone calls, and this is what I love about New York City's garment district. You make 2 phone calls and someone goes, well, I have a photographer and I have a model. By the way, our model got COVID the day before the photo shoot. So luckily for us, we love the people at State Model Management, because the folks at State said, well, your model has COVID and we found 2 other models. And I'm like, whoever can be here tomorrow. And we shot the collection in my apartment. So now we're at December 3rd, right after Black Friday, and we launched the collection on December 6th, and we sold out same day. I think it was the power of the community. And I said, okay, we sold this for pre-order and everything would ship by December 21st so people would have it for Christmas. And now we have 14 days to make hundreds of pieces of velvet loungewear. And I will tell you, the smiles on our seamstresses' faces to know that they had work in the month of December. We literally in 2 weeks made hundreds of pieces of velvet loungewear in time for the holidays. I have this great photo of December 21st, us rolling the hamper of tons and tons of boxes to get them shipped off, mostly because we had gotten really nervous emails from husbands and boyfriends who had bought the loungewear, and a number of them said, I'm going to be empty-handed on Christmas Day if this does not arrive by the 23rd. So we paid for overnight shipping. Gentlemen out there, please, if this ever happens, you just pay for the overnight shipping. I mean, we kind of just ate that cost so that people would get their packages in time for the holidays, that they'd have something under the tree. But yes, that's one of my messages for men out there. Please pay for overnight shipping. It's only $25 and she never needs to know. And it'll help a young company succeed and not just eat into their gross margin for the holidays. But we went through that experience and I started to think about what that meant. Our team took Christmas to New Year's off and my wheels started turning. And I was like, what is it that we learned from 2020? Half of our products are made in our own factories in China, and half of our products have always been made in New York City. But for 2020, we made 100% of our products in New York City. In the process of doing that, one of my factory owners said, hey, why don't we buy a factory together? There are so many factories going out of business. Why don't we move in together? Why don't we go and get a space and take over that floor? And I said, you're crazy. There's a snowstorm happening. And he said, well, your lease is up, my lease is up. Let's go get a factory together. And so the next step happened, which was in early February of 2021, we went into business and we got a factory. And this factory that we work in makes the uniforms for the Empire State Building. Who knew that the Empire State Building's doorman uniforms are still made in New York City? We have a 70-year-old machine, a Singer sewing machine in this factory that is here because it still makes the shoulder and the lapel seams for doorman uniforms in New York. They still love that crisp look, so we keep this machine around. And so we decided that we would have a factory because during a pandemic, why not? It's available. And so organically, over the course of the beginning of 2021, I started to realize this might be the next chapter of the Gravitas story, that we've always been trying to make it in the fashion industry. We've always trying to break through and become the next big brand. But more than anything, we make products. We physically make them, we conceptualize them, we talk about them, we obsess over them, and we make them 10 feet away from where I'm sitting right now. And we get to touch and feel them and beat them up before they end up at your doorstep in a box. And I said, well, I feel like we need to let people in on what's going on over here, because coming out of a pandemic and pivoting our business to making PPE when we're used to making high-end women's workwear, how do you go back to making products as we get ready for women to go back to the office? How do we physically make things, because I think people were stunned that we made so many face masks in the middle of a pandemic. How did you do that? And I said, well, why don't we show people the inside story of how we're trying to make it in the fashion industry and how we make things. Let's show people how things get made and why New York City's garment district is so very special. Why it's one of the few places in the world where if you have an idea, the ability to execute it and bring it into the world and make it a reality, it's possible here. And let's show you what the reinvigoration of New York City looks like through this process. You're going to see a couple of things on this series, Making It in the Garment District. One, we're going to take you from beginning to end, the entire design process for product, from us debating what we're going to make and why it deserves to be out in the world and why women will want this product, all the way to choosing the materials, sewing the sample, doing the costing sheet, and then shooting it, putting it on a model, and bringing it into your homes. We're going to take you from beginning to end. The second thing is we will be talking about what it takes to make it in the garment district. And then lastly, we want to share stories of the women we love, the women we serve, our community. And one of the most exciting parts of this series is a concept that we're calling Gift of Gravitas. I love giving things. Giving is in the DNA of what we do. I believe that confidence is contagious, although I don't know if we can say contagious in the world of COVID, but confidence is certainly something that once you have it and you exude it, it literally, the next person wants to be like that, right? It's sort of like an incredible gift that you can give people. And one of the things we're going to do this year, and we want to show it to you, is we're going to give away $100,000 of workwear. And we are going to allow you to nominate those people. We're also going to randomly select people on the streets of New York City to give the gift of gravitas. So that's going to be something I'm personally passionate about, especially because women were disproportionately affected during the pandemic. Professional working women were the hardest hit in terms of climbing the corporate ladder because of the last year. And I think it's really important that we all have gravitas in our lives, literal piece of clothing with the word gravitas on your back, because having that in your life can help all of us re-enter the workplace this fall.